All right, I'll go ahead and ask all the panelists for this session, including my husband who's running late somewhere, who's not up here yet. Yes, come on, yep. I just want to give I just want to say thank you to all of the speakers that we just had, including the panel, all of them, because I think, one of the wonderful things about this conference is that we get to see all of our colleagues and we get to hear all the greatest and latest research and everything that's so important for our learning, but something that we also need to remember that's just as important, if not more. Remember that, put your own oxygen on first, is the humanity part of it and the personal side of it and how we can remain happy and content with our life and our job so that we can help patients better. So can I just get a round of applause for all of our past speakers from this session, please? Okay, and then here we go. So we're just, all the time I have people ask me and our panelists, how do you do it? How are you married and you have kids and you do academics or you're a urologist or you're this? And so I just want to shed a little bit of transparency because this is a topic we always get asked. And a lot of us have dual physician couples where we're married to other physicians, but this doesn't just apply to physicians. This can be dual working families because life is tough. So I just want to make sure that everyone kind of has an idea of what real life is and that it is okay and you can manage it and there's a lot of different ways. So my disclosure is that I'm unfortunately a Bengals fan and that I'm married to one of the panelists. So these are our panelists. So we have Peter Bajic, who is a husband, and he's a father, and he's been married 8 years to an ophthalmologist, and he's got 2 cute little girls, 3 and 1. We have Matt Ziegelman, who's been married for 11 years to a psychiatrist, and he has 2 little boys. That's an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old. We have Jeff Campbell, who's been married 10 years, married to a family medicine doctor who specializes in chronic pain, and they actually get to work together a lot. And he's got 3 little kids, an 8-year-old boy, a 6-year-old girl, and a 4-year-old girl. And then my husband, Aaron Burney, who's married to me for 9 years, and we have 3 boys, an 8-year-old, a 6-year-old, and one that will turn 4 next week. So that's our little disclaimer. But so what do you want to know? What is the kind of fun, cool, awesome stuff that is great? Well, there's all this bliss before marriage and kids, and we have all this free time, and we all look usually a little bit better than we do now, and we just kind of have a good time. But what might be kind of some important things to discuss? Maybe before marriage, did any of you, and I'll probably start with Matt first, did any of you ever have a discussion about, are y'all on the same page about, kind of spending life habits, or that when you were getting married, should you get your own occupation insurance and just stuff to kind of set you up for success?
No, unfortunately. We still are, we're still working through the first bullet point, the financials. We certainly had discussions, as I think most relationships do, about the other things, like having kids and that sort of thing, and how we wanted to work our medical careers into our family life, and not vice versa. We didn't want to work our family life into our medical career. That's, I think, still the sentiment we both live by.
Yeah, Jeff, do you want to take a thought on this too?
Yeah, I think everything we thought we knew before you actually start is totally different than when you're actually, in the trenches. And so, yeah, we had tons of debt that we had to work through, and we knew what our goals were in terms of paying that down as soon as possible. But I think everything's been evolving between going different places for fellowships and then having kids, and then that all kind of changes as we've kind of been going about. And a lot of it we didn't really know we needed to know until you needed to know.
Yeah, I think some of the other slides are, I only have 2 other slides, but I think they have kind of the meat and potatoes of what we're going to talk about, so I'm going to skip. So talking about kids, for you guys, okay, so I took 5 weeks off for my first C-section because, I was this tough resident, and then I took 6 weeks off maternity after my second C-section for my fellowship, and then I took 10 weeks off as an attending, and my one regret is I wish I had taken 12 because you don't get that time back, and your patients are always going to be there for you, and you are so replaceable. Your patients will go somewhere else. They'll always keep coming in. There's more, and it really is a very special time, and I understand that not everyone has the finances that can do that. I luckily was at a place where we could take the disability, and it worked out, but these are kind of some things. How long did you guys take for paternity?
I could start, and just as a disclaimer, I do have my wife here on speakerphone. She's at an optho meeting in Chicago, just to make sure I don't say anything stupid that she would disagree with, and feel free to chime in, Nikki, if needed. So we're very lucky at Cleveland Clinic that we have a pretty good leave policy, so she got 3 months off with both of our girls, and I was actually able to get a month off. It never feels like enough, but I think increasingly we're seeing that hospitals are becoming more supportive. I mean, definitely as we were interviewing, there were places that didn't even have any parental leave at all, even for moms. So that factored into our decision making on where we ended up.
Aaron?
One of my biggest regrets was Hayden, next to Helen there. I took 2 days off after we had Hayden, and you think you would learn from your mistakes, and then we had Holland. By the way, I wanted 2 kids. I don't know if you can tell from the picture, but we have 3. But then I took a week for him, and I regret those decisions. I think a big thing I tell residents now and people in practice is take as much time as you can. I mean, your kids deserve it, you deserve it, your spouse deserves it. Whatever you can do to maximize, it's totally unnecessary to rush back to work. Everything will be there for you. I was playing golf with a guy last year, and he said, when at the end of the day, your patients will never remember your name, but your kids will. And he was actually not a very nice guy, but I thought that was really interesting thing, and that stuck with me. So I think about that a lot now.
So, Peter, what does your childcare look like at home? Who takes care of your 2 little ones?
Yeah, so we're lucky that we have a lot of support, and I think for us it's one of the things that makes life feasible. So we have an au pair, and then we have both grandmas that fill in gaps where needed. So.
If I can just add, I think layered childcare is really crucial because things are always coming up, right? If you're on call, you have to go in. You need to have contingency plans in place. And so having a backup plan, it's not enough to just have daycare and that's it. Because what happens when they're sick and daycare sends them home? You can't just take a day off of work. So having layered childcare is really crucial.
Yeah, so just in case any of you couldn't understand her, so layered childcare, and just when there's times where you have to suddenly pick up the kids and stuff, just having the ability and flexibility to flex where needed.
Jeff, you want to say what yours looks like?
Yeah, so I'm not nearly that lucky. We previously had a nanny who left, and it's just me and my wife. We have no family nearby. We've built a community of friends in the neighborhood that can pitch in when we need to, but we basically balance our schedules, and it's one of the 2 of us all the time. If we go away for a weekend, my parents can come in. They're about 2 hours away. But if a kid is sick, or for after school, before school, sporting events, there's nobody. So we just kind of band together and we struggle through it.
So I'll kind of, what are we doing? We have 6 sick kids. So we have 3. 2 of them are in school and one's in daycare, so that means they get sick all the time. And we probably have a Rolodex of about 5 to 6 babysitters or nannies that we go through, and there have been times where every one of them wasn't able to do it. And so between Aaron and I, whoever's in the OR stays in the OR, and whoever's in clinic cancels clinic, or they bring their sick kid with them to clinic. And so we've kind of both done that is kind of one of our things. Does anybody else have thoughts on sick kids?
I'll comment on. So acetaminophen and ibuprofen, right?
Send them anywhere,
before
yeah.
you
Send them in.
Bring them to daycare. No, I'm kidding. I'm a little kidding. No, I think your point though is important, is that, and you're going to talk about this in the next slide, but just acknowledging that and this is true for not just dual physician households, but just anyone who shares a busy work-life balance, is that we want to just make sure that, unless you've agreed that someone's career is more important than the others, I certainly haven't made that agreement with my wife. We do have to make sacrifices, and if that means canceling clinic, if that means doing telemedicine or calling the patients and apologizing, profusely, we have to do that, and we both just make those sacrifices, which is incredibly challenging, and it comes up once a month. So this is just something that anybody deals with. Probably everybody in the audience is going to experience that in some way, shape, or form.
I think as you're starting jobs and stuff, it can be valuable to, when feasible, try to design your schedules in a way where maybe, you're not operating on the same day if you're both surgeons, or if, you have an administrative day, to try to not have it on the same day, so that there are days of the week where one might have more flexibility than the other. That's kind of been valuable for us.
That's a great point. So what about career? What do you, I'll kind of go to the middle one because I think I have one more slide, but how do you make sure that it is clear that one partner's practice is not more important than another so that each partner feels valuable? And I'm probably gonna let Aaron start with this because I have made this mistake a lot of times where I'm like, but I have meetings and I have papers and I have committee reports and I need to do this. And I kind of forget that like, he makes more RVUs than me. He pays our bills a lot more than me. And his job, though he hasn't chosen to, while he works at IU with me, he hasn't chosen to be as academic with publications or committees. His job is just as important, and he takes care of a lot of patients. In fact, at IU, he sees the most patient visits of any one of our physicians in our 37 physician department. He's an extremely busy general urologist in clinic, and he didn't make that decision to do academics, and so it's not my right to act like my job is more important and that he should be putting the kids to sleep more often than me or babysitting them more often than me. So go ahead, Aaron.
Well, it's one of my favorite questions is, how do you guys do it? I think somebody said this earlier, and I just say, I don't know. You just wake up every day and make a plan for that specific day and plan a little bit ahead if you need to. As Helen travels more and more, I mean, we've just, to her point, we've built up a huge cadre of babysitters. I've got great relationships with my partners. I'm always one to ask for help if I need it with coverage. And I think just being honest and allowing yourself to be vulnerable with people you care about and people can be helpful. I think that's okay. You don't always have to be an Iron Man or an Iron Woman and take on the world yourself. Because we're all human, and so just acknowledging that and accepting that and asking people for help and trying not to yell at your kids too much at bedtime when you've had a stressful day, and just remembering that they're kids and the only thing they care about in the world is getting to hang out with their parents and their brothers and eat candy. Just try and keep it simple and just try and get through the day and get to the next day and keep going. Just value what's important.
The only other mistake this brings to mind that I did early on is keep tabs. So I would keep track of the number of conference days that my wife went to, and she would do the same for me, and it never ended with a productive conversation. So if it's something that's important, just make it work. That's it. But it's a day-to-day grind.
And I think just to build on that, I think the nature of what we do is that the work commitments and obligations are going to ebb and flow. So there's going to be certain times where one of us might have more going on and need a little additional support than the other. And then there's going to be times where we're both just kind of slammed. So I think that the more we can try to support each other through our various, those times when it's really tough and we need the extra support, the better.
I think we've seen, this meeting alone, a lot of people also travel with their families, right? So if you can turn, a 2-day conference into a 4 or 5 day family trip, then it also kind of is a double win for everyone. So you don't necessarily, now, that doesn't always go very good, but so be cautious when you leave your kids in the hotel room for 2 days with your wife. But there's ways to kind of make that work as well if you're going to be away a lot.
Excellent. And then this is our last slide. How do you guys manage household chores, right? If you have 2 working people, who's cleaning the house? Who's doing the laundry? Who's doing your grocery shopping so you have food in the house? And who does your finances? So I kind of want to hear from all of you.
You want to start? I think it's okay. I'll just acknowledge, and I think we've come to terms with that our house doesn't look like we want it to during the week. There's clean laundry on the floor, and there's a couple dishes in the sink, and I've just accepted that is the way of the world, and that's taken a lot of stress off our relationship. Yeah.
Nikki, you were going to say something?
Yeah, just outsource what you can.
Yeah, so outsource whatever you can, right? So, we have a cleaning lady that comes every 2 weeks. It's probably the best $150 that I spend per, every 2 weeks, because we don't have to scrub our toilets and do this stuff that we really don't want to do. We kind of just try to do what we can, and I try to set as much of the bill stuff on autopilot as possible so we don't have to be thinking about it. And then around the house, she's usually doing all the dish stuff, I'm doing the laundry stuff, however you choose to break it up, but it really needs to be balanced and should not fall disproportionately on one partner. And there's going to be times where they just can't do it because they're too overwhelmed with what's going on, and then you fill in and help each other.
Yeah, definitely outsourcing. I mean, I'll do my grocery shopping in between OR cases, and then they are delivered by the time I get home. So like, I'm not wasting that hour at the grocery store walking through the aisles. I can kind of multitask. Most other things, yeah, we get help to do it all because, like, yeah, you have a finite amount of time, and you don't want to waste your time, you know, doing all of these things that you don't necessarily need to. I also think, like, we really build a lot of it into, so laundry, for example. Everyone hates doing laundry, but my wife will do a load of laundry literally every day, and it's just a part of her routine. She puts it on, basically puts it on, lets it dry, goes to bed, and then when she wakes up to work out in the morning, she folds it, it's put away, and it's like, so because it's just like a part of regular routine, it doesn't seem like a huge task every time, right? It's not like 10 loads of laundry every Sunday, so all of which it used to be, right? It's these slow little things that make it like everything is time efficient.
It looks like we're out of time, so I'll just add that if it gets too overwhelming and you can't get to it, then 2 dirty Grey Goose martinis takes care of everything.
Maybe 4.
But this is just a picture of just showing, like we come home sometimes and that's our counter up top, and there's just stuff from like the week of school and all the stuff they send home that we haven't even gotten to yet. And when my kids were younger, you know, this is how we would bathe them. I'd put the little baby would be stuck in a chair so he couldn't move, so one of us would bathe the other. But, you know, I think at the end of the day, communication and ensuring that your partner feels valued is key because Aaron and I will both agree that it is so much easier for us to be at work than to be at home and be that full-time parent and running the household. I mean, that's a full-time job. And, you know, the take home is it isn't easy and there's no one size fits all. We all do different things and we're all just trying to make it work. And so give yourself a little bit of grace too. Find what you love, find what's important to you and your partner and your family, build your life around that. Ask lots of questions, communicate often. I mean, Aaron and I do all the time. I mean, he'll tell me, and you gotta build a village. You know, we also don't have family by us. And so, you know, outsource as much as you can, ask for help, but don't give up because it does get easier and it is definitely doable. So thank you guys so much. And for time's sake, we'll probably close out this session.